if you test your own children, you do have to have a full-time proctor. That's not a problem too much in Lenore County because our testing plan for the county speaks to that. Our Board of Education wants us to have a full-time proctor as much as we can. You can still have a roving proctor as long as no one in your team, you're not teaching, I don't want to get this wrong. You can have a roving proctor if you are teaching a different grade level than you teach. If you're administering a different grade level than you teach. Like, if the 5th grade team wanted to do the 4th grade, that would, a proctor for the 4th grade, that would be fine. That 5th grade person couldn't proctor the 5th grade and be a roving proctor. So that's a little bit different than we've done in the past. I'll be really honest with you, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I don't make the rules. So anyway, keep that in mind as we go forward. We're not real sure why all this came to be. The only thing we can kind of come up with, and no one has told us, is that we have a new superintendent, and maybe he's got an agenda that, he wants to see more fidelity with testing. That's about all I can figure out. Anyway, that's how it is. Another thing that's come up that it's new to us, is that in the past, we've always been notified a couple of weeks, sometimes even a month ahead of time when we were going to be audited. And what that means is every school at some point has someone from the region or from the state come in and watch you test. They pull up your documents to see that you've got what is needed, that you've got, that the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted. And now that is no longer the case. We won't know ahead of time. And why that is important, I'll just give you a little example. First year we were in this job, Ms. Shepherd and myself, we got the call that we were going to be audited. Well, of course, we didn't even know, A from Z hardly, but anyway, it was the state coming in for an EC audit. Well, as you know, at the beginning of the year, you all have to do that online training, and you have to produce the certificate to Ms. Reese, and she holds on to those. Well, this was a high school, and it was the fall testing cycle. The testing administrator changed from the beginning of the year to testing time. The person left. Well, the testing coordinator that was there at the end began to try to pull her pieces of data together, and there were no certificates. So, of course, she was in a panic, as were we. So I'm calling the other person to see where they are. And he said, well, they gotta be there somewhere. Well, come to find out, Bob Martin didn't do them. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. So it made us look pretty bad that we hadn't done what we were supposed to do in a timely manner. It got done. It just didn't get done at the time that it should have been done. So these are the kinds of things that happen sometimes. Sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's not intentional, but we want to be sure that we've got our ducks in a row when it comes to testing time. So if somebody comes to observe you, some of the things they're going to look for are you up and around and moving? Are your devices all off? Not only do the children that you are testing and assessing can't have a smartphone, smart glasses, an iPad other than for their work, a laptop, any other kind of device, nor can you. When you're in your classroom and you are walking around as a test administrator or as a proctor, you have to ditch the watch unless it's a medical issue, and we have to know that, and we have to address it with our regional person, because sometimes they want you to do some switching around. We've sent 2 to them, and they've told us kind of what to do. So please don't be at your desk putting in grades, looking at a movie, whatever. You want to be up and around and fix your desk in such a way that you can get through and you can see what's going on. Because the children will fib about that. We had one the other day that came in late. She was taking a check-in, and the teacher asked her as she came in the door, do you have a cell phone? No, ma'am. Child goes, sits down, she puts her iPad on her desk, gets started. 5 or 6 minutes later, the teacher looks up, and the child has out a phone. She's on AI, trying to find an answer. So this was not high school either. This was a lower grade. So I'm just telling you, they're not going to always be truthful. One thing that has changed this year that you you will probably be glad of, I'm really glad of it, when they open up their iPad and they log in, or it's logged in, there will be an attestation statement that says, I don't have a cellular device on me. So if they do, then they're live when they click that button. So you might want to go ahead now and begin to talk to your students about that. Leave the devices home that day if they're tempted. You know, we were saying the other day, we don't even think elementary have them, but we know they do. So anyway, you know, go ahead and start addressing that now, because you don't want it to become an issue that day. I did talk to a middle school this morning, and I don't know how it is now in lower grades. I know what it was like in high school and middle school. They all wear big hoodies. So we've kind of suggested that you tell them they've got to take their hoodies off and put them over on the corner. They can't have their stuff with them, so just put it over in, you know, on the wall, or however you are accustomed to doing that. Because hoodies have big pockets and they'll hide those kinds of things. And we don't want you to, that's a level 2 offense. So there's a big paper trail that goes along with those level 2 offenses, and it could cause some issues, like the database becomes, I guess, corrupted, compromised is a better word, I guess. And they have to go back track. It's just a lot. It's just not doing a little paper thing. Austin has to do an investigation. We have to do an investigation. Our regional person does an investigation. It goes all the way to the top. Sometimes the attorneys at the state level, we've had them get involved on things like this. So it's very, very important that students, you know, understand this is a big deal. So handle it however you handle it best in your own classroom. You know your students better than I do. Some of the issues that have come forth since we're kind of on that are, you know, kids having cell phones. We've had situations where manuals would be lost, and the testing administrator would grab their check-in manual and read those instructions rather than reading from the manual. That is a no-no. They're not the same, number one. Number two, each grade has specific stuff that they're talking about. So mark your manuals, take paper clips, be sure you're on the right pages, and please, please read it ahead of time. Don't come in that morning and feel like, oh, I can do this. Some of you have done it 100 times, maybe not 100 times, but a lot of times. And you know, we're told from our regional people, those are the people typically that make mistakes. Our younger, newer teachers sometimes are more vigilant about it because they've never seen it before. But the manual does change from year to year, so please read through that and mark your parts accordingly. You all are aware that you won't have summer school, so you will have the opportunity this year, which I think is great, to reassess your students during those 10 days if they are not proficient. Only students that are not proficient can be retested, and they must have 4 hours of remediation beforehand. Again, this is a win-win for your school because you've got a captive audience. You don't have to get them back after school's out. I can't imagine a parent caring whether they're reassessed or not, but there'll be a letter that will go home and you'll have to let the parent know. The parent does not have to sign anything, but I would have something probably just to cover myself that I'd make it as simple as I could, that maybe if they didn't want them to be done, whatever your clientele is used to, because everybody's, some send back if they don't want it, some send back if they do want it. So whatever works best for you all is how I would frame that letter. Some more examples I just want to go through because some of them kind of comical. Please don't walk around the table and you see that Susie's on question 3 and she's getting ready to hit C, or she did hit C, and say, you might want to look at that again. Please don't do that. You'd be amazed at how many times we hear that does happen. Again, be sure you've got the right manual. Be sure that because of these, when a cell phone is used, the questions when it's tracked back, the questions that are used are in this big database, so they have to go in and try to get them out. The one thing they told us about AI with this other situation is, once it goes in AI, it's in an AI database that covers the world. So you can type in stuff and it'll come up. So please be very careful and be sure that your kids are not using, cell phones and that they are put away. Another example that they gave us, which I thought was kind of hilarious, child goes to the bathroom. Child takes a scratch paper. You know, scratch paper is considered secure because they're writing things on there. Leaves the scratch paper in the bathroom for his buddy to come in and get it to get the answers. Somebody just went in and found it and turned it in. So that's another thing that you got to be real careful. If you send out 20 pieces of scratch paper, then you need to get 20 pieces of scratch paper back because it is secure materials. An example with the scratch paper, the teacher instructed the students to discard the scratch paper rather than collecting, and it has to be turned back in to Ms. Reese. They're all, you know, sometimes it happens after the fact that a child will go up to a teacher and says, well, Miss So-and-so helped, you know, Johnny on his test, and this happened down the road. So that's why we want to be very vigilant and we don't see things like that happening as we go through. A principal or somebody took a screenshot because they had an issue on their device, like the question didn't show up properly, or part of it didn't show up. And I know we've all experienced that at some point. You cannot take a picture of anything that's on that screen. You must call Ms. Reese and we'll figure it out. She'll call us and we'll call the help desk or whatever we need to do. They'll give us a series of things to try first. But it's very important never to take a picture of a screen because that does compromise what they call their database and knowledge. If you are a testing administrator, you cannot leave the room. If you do leave the room, you have to have a testing administrator come take your place. The proctor can't do that for you. So keep those things in mind. You can, depending on how she sets up her schedule, if you have some students who need to retest, like you have, let's just say you have 5 students in grade 3 that are absent, and you've already got the scores back for everybody else, and you know who is not proficient, those 5 students can test with your reassessments. The most important thing I can say to you right now is be sure you select the correct test, because you're gonna have a lot of offerings. You're gonna have the summer early, you're gonna have the spring, so just be sure you're on the right one and you got the right grade and the right everything for the students that you're testing. Anyone have any questions? We trust nothing's going to go wrong. We don't anticipate anything going wrong, but when we were given the rules and regulations earlier this month, we just felt like there was a need for us to come in and just, you know, reiterate to you, because it is a big deal this year. Not sure why, but you know, we may have some visitors that we're not used to having, and we certainly want to be sure that we kind of shine. We typically do. We don't have a lot of problems. We do have to do some irregularities from time to time, but there's nothing with malice that we've had to do. So keep doing what you're doing. Just be sure you read those manuals, and if you have any questions, you can certainly email us, or you can ask Austin, and she'll get to us, and we'll get you an answer if we don't know what it is. Okay, thank you.